good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hotseat on 933 KFM. I welcome you, our listeners across this beautiful land, the Pearl of Africa. My name is Patrick Kamara. Tonight, we're looking at the issue of refugees. By the way, there has been a preliminary release of the population census report. It really shows that Uganda has such a big number of refugees, which means that probably we're a good host community, but also that shows you many people are choosing to come to Uganda, especially when they have a problem in their home countries. And so tonight, when the refugees come to Kampala or come to Uganda, what kind of solidarity do they have with Ugandans? We'll be looking into solidarity with refugees here in Uganda. Let me introduce my panel this evening. From the Jesuit Refugee Project, I have Angelina Namulondo. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening.
Good evening, Patrick. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Angelina Namulondo, and I'm the Mental Health and Psychosocial Support Coordinator for the Jesuit Refugee Service. Thank you so much for being here,
Angelina. From the Refugee Law Project, I have Charity Immaculate. Thank you so much for joining us, Charity.
Thank you, Patrick. My name is Charity Immaculate, and I work with the Refugee Law Project, School of Law, Kamara University.
I also have with us Olivia Bakomezi, Congolese Urban Refugee Community. Olivia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you a lot, Mr. Patrick Kamara.
Does that mean you're Congolese?
Yes, I'm a Congolese.
Are you for real?
Yes.
Sango nini?
Malamu.
Mbote?
Toza bien.
Okay, thank you so much, Olivia. Thank you so much, Charity and Angelina, for being here. Let me begin with you, Angelina, because your job is very crucial. You're dealing with people who have run away from their country. Some of them have seen the worst incidents happen to them. Maybe some of them have unspeakable things happen to them. Of course, when they come to Uganda, the mind is kind of has seen so much, and they need people like you, psychosocial support. When people cross into the Uganda from different borders, what kind of individuals do you meet? What kind of stories do they tell you? How do you even handle the good and the bad and the ugly that they have gone through?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for highlighting the importance of actually the mental health. It is a very key thing, as we have noticed lately. There is the refugee crisis that has been ongoing, but also after the COVID-19 pandemic, this actually exacerbated the mental health issues faced by both the refugees and the host communities, the Ugandans. So you ask, when they come, how do we do it? Who are the people we meet? We do meet all categories of people, ranging from the men, the women, the children. Some women have the children, some are children on their own, children at risk, child-headed, and then all categories, from the youth, from the all these. So
I can imagine when war breaks up somewhere, people scatter in different directions. Children can go this side, and the parents can go the other side, and you have people who have no help, have no adults, but they are also refugees.
Yes, right? Yes. And most times they are separated. So when they come in, there is a lot that they have. There is a lot that they have faced right from where the war broke, and then the flight itself. There is a lot that happens during the flight, and by the time they arrive to refuge to Uganda, it is refuge, yes, but then there is still a lot that they need. It's not like they have arrived and that is it. There's still a lot. They do arrive. The children are alone. They don't have parents. They haven't eaten. They don't have even the basics of. They don't have basics of.
I think it can be the most traumatizing thing to find yourself in, especially when in another country without help, or probably different culture, different language, and then you remember what you've gone through in your own mind. That must be really, especially so hard and heavy on the mind of a young child.
It is. It surely is. And so you can already imagine how that affects one's psychological well-being.
Let me come to you, Charity, because you can help us put the numbers. When we're talking about refugees, who's a refugee? The scope and the statistics in Uganda.
Yeah, thank you very much, Patrick. To start, I think it would be good I talk about my institution. I work with the Refugee Law Project, School of Law, Kamara University. It was started in 1999, basically to provide legal services to the refugees, because on many occasions when they come to Uganda, they fall in, they become they get in conflict with the law. So when they get in conflict with the law, on many occasions, initially in those years, there were a few institutions that were providing legal services to the forced migrant. So as RLP, we've expanded, and now we have 5 thematic programs, and all these thematic programs provide different services to the refugees. So we have the Access to Justice program that mainly provides legal-related services. For now, it is Refugee Law Project and the Uganda Law Society that provides legal representation for refugees in courts of law. Many of them, when they come here, they do not have funds to get access to lawyers when they are in conflict with the law. So we provide comprehensive legal services, the legal advice, the mediations, working hand in hand with the judiciary, prison, to ensure that justice prevails for the refugees in conflict with the law. The mental health program also provides, you talked about the traumatic experiences, the depression, anxiety that many refugees have encountered. As Refugee Law Project, we provide them with comprehensive psychosocial support to help them heal, to help them regain their memory, to help them integrate with the refugees and settle well in Uganda. So that program has helped a number of refugees to access that service, and it's free of charge. We have professional counselors. We operate in 13 districts now in Uganda, providing all these services. The other program we have is the gender and sexuality, where mainly we provide rehabilitation of victims of sexual violence related harms.
Wait a minute, how do you do this? Because you have people who have crossed into a country, some of them are speaking Juba Arabic, some of them are speaking French, speaking Tigrinya, they're speaking, Afano Romo, or they're speaking Amharic, and they're in Kampala. How do you deal with that for them to feel really they are not cheated?
Thank you, Patrick. For particularly on that, Refugee Law Project employs 35% refugees of our staff.
Okay.
And these refugees that we employ provide interpretation services. So we have different interpreters that help in interpreting for the refugees. So when they come in looking at the language need, so we recruit and have these individuals to help in communication. Because myself, I don't know Arabic. I know Swahili, at least I can communicate with Congolese. But when I meet a Somali, I can't be able to speak their language. I can't be able to speak. When I meet an Eritrean, I can't be able to speak the language. So we have interpreters who are full-time staff and fully paid, facilitated to help us in communicating, understanding the problems that the refugees face. And then we provide them with the different services that we offer as an institution.
Okay, let me now come to Olivia, because you, as a Congolese living in Kampala, I suppose, you meet different challenges. But also when your other colleagues, fellow Congolese come to Uganda as refugees, they have gone through a lot of painful, traumatic experiences. I was listening to a gentleman called Dr. Mukwege. You know Dr. Mukwege?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Mukwege, a Congolese doctor who has helped to try to to treat the victims of sexual violence, because rape and defilement has been used as a weapon of war in Congo. So when they come here, they have their own challenges, but their mind is also full of traumatic experiences. As somebody in a Congolese urban refugee community, how do you handle your colleagues who come and they keep coming?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. It is really a good concern, and as a leader of the community, we are there to try to, first of all, to guide our people. So we have been elected to represent the voice of the community members.
Of the Congolese community in urban areas, in Kampala.
Yes, true. So for that, first of all, you have there to engage with refugee stakeholders, service providers, and different organizations providing services to refugees, and to show the need which is there in the community. And we are there to guide our people and to know really their needs, so that we can know how best we can really advocate for the issue they are facing within the community.
Olivia, even residents, Ugandan living in Kampala, they find it hard sometimes. Sometimes things don't even add up. And I'm wondering, how about a refugee? Because if a local Ugandan in Kampala is finding it hard in Kampala, it must be extremely difficult for our Congolese brothers and sisters in this city.
Yeah, that is really true, because it's not easy when you flee your country to another country where you have no relatives, where you don't know their lifestyle, and you have to cope up with life. It is not really easy. But refugees, when they flee, also they are normal people like others, only that they have left their country due to they have been persecuted. They have been persecuted, and they have to look for safety. They have to look for protection, and that's why they are here. But while coming, they have on them, they move with their skills.
Okay, so when you are in Kampala as a refugee, do you get some kind of cultural shocks? Do you also get, are there things that are shocking you? You find them, they are different, they're hard to understand, but also maybe hostility from the host community?
Yeah, we can't say that it is really there, but we have at least some stain of that, where people, they perceive refugees differently, and where they consider refugees as a threat for them. But refugees, they are normal people, and while here, they have also skills that they can share with the host community. And their presence here, it is very important, because it is a kind of promoting even cultural diversity here in Uganda, here in urban areas. And it is also their presence here, it also promotes, how can I call it? It is social harmony.
Okay, let me come back to you, Angelina, because I can imagine if people have their own mental challenges because of what experiences they've gone through, they'll come in a place like Germany or any city, they'll be also fighting for the resources with the host communities. That alone can cause a conflict between the refugee and the host community, and that could be a recipe for disaster. How do you deal with that?
Patrick, that's why we are here, for example, today, this June. As we know, we've been commemorating the World Refugee Day, and our theme has been solidarity with the refugees. So with a background that, yes, they do come and they do have to integrate with the local communities. And in the integration, usually, probably there are challenges that may come up. But then, for example, you mentioned if they come to a place and then they are struggling for the little resources. So that's where we have... like, for example, JRS has a peace-building peace-building component, whereby we try to bridge these gaps, try to introduce activities that can increase the social cohesion between both the refugees and the host, so that we ensure that the harmony is there. Already, things are difficult. Already, both have their own challenges, but then if there is harmony, at least then we'll have to, they'll be able to cope. So that is one component that JRS does, peace building, for example. Maybe allow me to just give you a broader aspect of what JRS does. So JRS, we do have different thematic areas, and in Uganda, we do work in Kampala and Adjumani. So that means we are responding to both the urban refugees as well as the refugees in the settlement. And sometimes the contexts differ a little bit, but the similarities in the challenges can be the same. So as JRS, we do have thematic areas of education. You asked a question of you meet someone and then they don't know any language. So we do offer classes. We do offer lessons for them to learn English. For example, you've come in, you only know Arabic, or you only know Amharic. Or French, or whatever language. So then JRS comes in to offer those lessons for them to be able to coexist with the others in the community. So language is one thing of building cohesion. So if they have a common language uniting them with the host or with their other fellow refugees, because there are many communities, that is already one way of managing. Then we also do have livelihood aspect, where livelihoods really.
Okay, Angelina, Charity, and Olivia, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll be asking Olivia why choose to come to the city and not the settlement. Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guests tonight are, I have Angelina Namulondo from Jesuit Refugee Project. I have Charity Immaculate from Refugee Law Project, and we have Olivia Bakomezi, Congolese Urban Refugee Community. Olivia, like I promised in this segment, I want to begin with you. You have run away from a Congolese town, a lot of problems you faced, and you choose to come to a city and hustle. You must be a very brave person to do that. Why would you choose a city and not a settlement where things are provided for you?
Oh, thank you, first of all, for complimenting me. I'm really a brave person.
Yeah.
But when you are fleeing, you don't have the roadmap to where you are going, but you prefer to reach at a safer place. That's why most of us, they prefer to come here to Kampala. Unfortunately, up to now, the government of Uganda,
if you're coming from South Kivu or North Kivu, really, you'll be entering from Chanika, from somewhere in Kisoro. You know there will be reception centers there.
A refugee doesn't know about Kisoro, Chanika. It is when they found themselves in Uganda.
Okay.
That is they are directed now. There is Chanika, there is Changwale. But from far we hear about Kampala. We know it is a town city for Uganda. And we consider that it is a safer place for us.
Okay.
That is why we come here. I was saying, unfortunately,
I'm not asking this because like you shouldn't be here. I was wondering how somebody who's fighting for their lives, running away,
True.
and then you come to a place that is even more complicated. Yet you're going to find Angelina and maybe Charity somewhere at the border, at the entry point, to help you, take you to a settlement where you can find, maybe get land, accommodation, be registered, and some food.
So Kampala, it is a well-known place,
yes,
around the world. That is why people prefer to come to Kampala.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't know that there is maybe Mbarara. I never knew about Mbarara. It is when I found myself in Kampala that I started discovering that there is also Mbarara. We have also Ginger. Because I'm here for the last 11 years. So
you're almost Ugandan. So Charity, I can imagine refugees in a settlement and refugees in urban centers have different challenges.
Yes.
So what's the difference in your view in terms of how they live? And I mean, how do they, the livelihood, how do they make ends meet? Survive?
I think, thank you, Patrick. Initially, you had asked me, who are these refugees?
Yes.
So basically, a refugee is an individual who crosses international borders to seek for protection while they are fearing or they have been persecuted in their country and they fear violence in their country. So particularly in Uganda, we currently host 1.7 million refugees now. And Uganda is currently receiving refugees from DRC.
Do you know what the census population report has given us?
No.
Less than half of the number you've given.
Really?
In fact, I'm having trouble to believe the data that was provided this afternoon. But go on.
So when you go to the UNHCR website, where there is the different populations of different nationalities and different settlements currently receiving and the existing refugees, you'll find that currently we have 1.7 million and some other numbers, approximately 1.7 million refugees. But we are currently receiving refugees from Congo who are currently settled in Nakivale, and also with the conflict in Sudan, Khartoum, we're also receiving refugees.
You have refugees coming from Sudan.
Yes.
Not even South Sudan,
Sudan. But we're still also getting from South Sudan. But the highest number is coming from Congo and Sudan. And then the others are coming from South Sudan currently. And in terms of the settlement base, you ask what are the challenges the urbans are facing. Uganda designed a refugee management system of having the urban based and the settlement based. The settlement-based are in designated government land and also land that has been offered by the host community, especially in the West Nile. But in other parts of the country, government has gazetted land, which are settlements where refugees are settling. And in the urban, they are mainly those who, after they have faced some challenges or who are able, they come and settle here. Actually, the Ugandan policy says, for those who are able, you can move to the urban. You're free to move to the city and start your life. If you cannot manage the urban, move to the settlement. OPM and UNHCR with the partners work closely to ensure that these people are resettled back to the settlement. Due to so many challenges like you highlighted, the urban refugees, their challenges are not so far different from the ones the rural refugees or settlement-based refugees are facing. But they vary in a way that when it comes to economic vulnerability in the household, in the urban, the situation is different. Access to food, shelter. Let me talk about shelter. Many of the refugees who are unable, who have small income, who have low earning, have bigger challenges getting shelter in Kampala.
But that's not even any different from even local Ugandans.
I understand.
Because
but
they Ugandans too.
The local Ugandan is in his or her own country, but this person is a forced migrant, is a displaced person who is in this country seeking protection. Government of Uganda gives land to the refugees in the settlement, and also they give you construction materials to set up a temporary structure. But when you come to the urban, it's a different issue. You do not have a small plot which is given to you in the settlement. You do not have the temporary construction materials that are given to you by UNHCR and other protection services that they get compared to how the situation is. So the economic vulnerability of the urban refugee may be similar to the one in the settlement, but it's really different when it comes to shelter.
Angelina, what makes Uganda attract a lot of refugees? We are in the Great Lakes region. Other countries surrounding Congo are there. There's Burundi, there's Tanzania, there's South Sudan, there's actually Central African Republic, and and Rwanda. And sometimes a guy can come from South Kivu or even far away from South
Kivu,
from Lubumbashi to Kampala. I don't understand. Is this because of the Uganda's refugee policy? Is it the accommodative nature of the Ugandan people?
Exactly.
So what makes us attractive to the refugees?
Okay, so Uganda has a fair policy for the refugees. You can see by the way they are received and the services that they do receive. Charity just mentioned that they are allowed to make a choice to move to the urban or stay in the settlement. That is already that's already freedom of movement. So Uganda has a fair policy for refugees, and that's why it attracts more and many more. I don't know about the other countries, but I also know that the other neighboring countries also have other internal conflicts that you don't want to move from the frying pan into the fire.
Okay.
So you're seeking for a place that is very safe.
Olivia, I don't know whether the people I see, especially in the Ruwaga division, are refugees and this Makindye. But the situation is the Habesha people, the Tigrinya-speaking community in Kampala, if you go in areas of Makindye, actually, there are so many that even signposts are written in Tigrinya, complete with a street preacher in Tigrinya. And of course, they have come with skills, trade, and all that kind of stuff. We see it more with the Habesha community, Eritreans and Ethiopians. They have brought in the skill of business and they invested in the Ugandan economy. I'm not very sure whether they are refugees or not. What kind of skills do the Congolese bring?
Here in the urban area, let me start by myself. I'm a trained lawyer.
Okay.
That is a skill. And I did refugee law.
Okay.
And that one, I use it first of all also to share my knowledge with my fellow refugees when they are in conflict with the law of Uganda. My first role is to teach them how they have to cope up with the laws of the host country to avoid being in conflict. So we have to prevent them being arrested for lack of knowledge. And also, that one I can share even it. Sometimes we share with also the local population. Many of people here, they don't know about the refugee law. And that's why they perceive refugees in another way. And we try sometimes to have debates and show them I'm a refugee, but I'm a person like you, and I'm able to do this for you.
You have a skill that you can bring as much as you can learn something from Ugandan community hosting you. Charity, I was at one point in Nakivale refugee settlement, and I could see the community in Isinjiro. If you look at the health services, education services, they are far much better, maybe 10 times better within Nakivale than the outside of the resettlement. And you could see the local community looking at the refugees with some kind of envy, because, I mean, they almost have everything they need if you compare them with the people outside the settlement. Yes. Can that cause some trouble as you move on?
Yes.
This is something I witnessed, that life, in some cases, with all respect, can look better in the refugees in a settlement than outside the settlement.
Yes. In some communities, it has accelerated conflicts between the refugees and the host. But the government of Uganda and partners have come up with different programs to help in ensuring that there is peaceful coexistence with the refugees and the host. And I think, Patrick, you might have heard about the Dr. Deep project that is being implemented currently in different refugee hosting districts. And a number of services are being done. One key thing that is being done is provision of infrastructure development, which is being done in construction of health centers in different areas. I had an opportunity. I worked in Nakivale refugee settlement. I think when I just got out of university, I was working in Nakivale. And you say you have a different...
Have you been to New Congo?
Yes. I was in Nakivale. Yes. Yeah. New Congo is like the business center of Nakivale.
Yes.
The capital city.
Yes. So when you move into this, government and partners have come up with programs and projects to help promote the solidarity of the Ugandans with the refugees. And the Dr. Deep, there have been projects concerning construction of health centers, construction of schools, complementing provision of resources, even scholastic materials to some of the refugees, provision of scholarship programs, but also livelihood projects, providing agricultural inputs, the refugees and the host. Refugees and hosts have been merged in groups, have been established in groups such that they all benefit. So the hosts don't look at the refugees as the key people who are benefiting, and then the hosts are being left out.
Okay, Charity, Angelina and Olivia, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll be asking what happens when conflicts just emerge within the refugee community itself, amongst the refugees themselves. How do you handle that? We'll be right back. 8 p.m. Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight, I have Charity Immaculate from Refugee Law Project. I have Angelina Namulondo from Jesuit Refugee Service, and Olivia Bakomezi from Congolese Urban Refugee Community. And we're discussing solidarity with refugees, having celebrated the World Refugee Day. I wanted to know from you, Olivia, when Congolese have their own internal conflicts amongst the refugees, isn't that very difficult to handle, especially when we are going to use Ugandans to be to arbitrate such conflicts? You can come with conflicts from Bukavu amongst yourselves, and you want to sort them in Kampala.
That is true. It is a reality.
Yes, okay.
But first of all, at the level of the community, we do mediation, where we bring both parties on board. We try to talk about the matter, but if it persists, that is when we can recommend them to other levels, other bodies. But it is there.
It happens.
Yes.
And Angelina, I can imagine young refugees, especially the females, if they are in Kampala or anywhere, just like anywhere, they would find a problem sometimes. People want to take advantage of them, harassment of certain kind, something like that. Is it something you have to contend with more often?
Yeah. That is, it's the scenarios to happen. And the biggest thing that we have realized with interacting with our brothers and sisters, the refugees, is them being aware. So you find that for these teenagers, the young girls, actually JRS works in schools and the youth in the community. So these are people that we do interact with daily. So we've realized that one of the biggest ways of getting to combat some of this is by giving them the awareness. Sometimes they do not know that actually when someone tries to take advantage of you, it is wrong. So when they get to know, they're able to come, seek the service, and then we can always address the issues. So, for example, recently we did have an adolescent child that was in school, but then there's how someone gets a boyfriend, actually a man friend, because he was actually big and the child was small. So that is defilement.
That's defilement, pure and simple.
Yes, but they do not know it is defilement. So when they come to us and say this is what is happening, or when we are doing our usual follow-ups,
they're all refugees.
The girl is, okay. But the man wasn't.
You handle it as a case of defilement. It's pure and simple.
Yes, but then they do not know. So it's when we are doing our follow-ups or when we are doing our usual activities that we get to realize that this is happening, and then the parents are okay. They do not even know that it is wrong. So what we've realized is awareness,
which is also more or less a Ugandan problem as well. Even Ugandan parents,
yes.
These things happen and they want to settle them out of court, or maybe somebody wants to be given a cow or money or a goat.
Yes,
it is as much as a Ugandan problem as well.
True. So there are many other ways that we do. Like you said, we do mediations in the communities, but then there are those like this one that may not necessarily require mediation. It takes on the law, the legal
yes.
side. So we have legal partners like Refugee Law Project, and we all work together with the community leaders, with the agencies, with the OPM, and so we have this collaboration that helps us to actually respond or try to mitigate the conflict when it arises within the communities.
So how about the issue of integrating? Because is it happening often, like refugees to integrate, maybe even social interaction? Because I know of a friend of mine, a Congolese refugee who now is in the United States. And I think she studied in Uganda and went to the US. And before you know it, last year she was telling me she's getting married to a Ugandan. And that was a good story. I was always joking with her that you left a war, brought you to Uganda only to find your man. But, but now they live in the US. But what level is that interaction common?
I think refugee integration is part of the durable solutions for the refugees. We have mainly in the humanitarian operations, we have 3 durable solutions. 1 is local integration, 2 is the voluntary repatriation, and then 3 is the resettlement. So she benefited from the resettlement. She was settled in another country, but then she's going to integrate with a Ugandan. While she gets married to a Ugandan, it's easier for her, to locally integrate. Those social structures solidify the easy integration in Uganda. And with local integration, I think there are quite a number of things that are needed for a refugee to be locally integrated. Issues of language, so that you're easily able to communicate. Issues of culture, they're so critical for you in locally integrating, but also having gainful income, employability, which is a problem. And I think that's why a number of organizations are coming up with programs to ensure that refugees are comfortable in Uganda. We do the training in English. We do help refugees understand their rights as Refugee Law Project. So all of these lay a foundation for the refugee integration in Uganda. But when we look at our services as a country, we are indirectly promoting refugee integration.
Okay.
The open door policy.
But you know, something that was very intriguing for me when I was in the Congo, I went to Bunia, been to Kisangani, Bukavu, Mungwalo, and Bafasende.
Yeah.
You know, when I look at your name, for example, Bakomezi, I'm thinking we could even be sharing a language because you know what? I found people speaking my language. Perhaps there are very many in Congo than they are in Uganda. A language similar to Rutoro, and then there are also those speaking language similar to Chifumbira. If you go down to where he's coming from, so and there are those who can easily integrate because the language is similar, isn't it?
True. Let me say, we have refugees here. Within 1 year, they can speak Luganda.
Yes.
As those one from now western part of Congo, they can spend even 10 years, and they don't know how to do it.
They cannot speak here.
They cannot.
But in Eastern Congo,
Congo, yeah, it is very easy. It is very easy.
Because in Eastern Congo, you have people, you have Aluru, you have people speaking
Kinande,
which is more than Lukonjo.
Yes.
Then in Bunia, you have the guys of Tamalubanga who speak a little bit like Runyoro, and then down in Kivu, they're speaking Kinyarwanda.
Yes.
So you can easily integrate.
That's
Even though amongst your communities, you rarely speak your own language. It is more about Lingala, Kiswahili, and French.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, do you also, as refugee associations working refugee communities, try to address the issue of why they are leaving their country? Because at the end of the day, that should be the issue. With all respect, Congo has been producing refugees for as long as I can remember.
Yes.
But also at one point, Uganda was a major exporter of refugees. So when is it going to be the time when the governments on the region can actually think about addressing the issues why people have to leave their motherland?
I think as Refugee Law Project, we've had the opportunity to go to different international platforms to talk about the refugee issues. And many of these platforms that we go to in international countries in the UN talk about how refugees are suffering and the need for the UN, the African Union, and other governments to contribute to this. We have the Transitional Justice and Governance Program that mainly looks at promoting peace in Uganda. We've had a history of violence in our country. We've had a history of war. When you look at our map in Uganda, almost every region in Uganda has experienced war. And while you look at all this, so we are working with different partners. Currently, we have the Dutch-funded project. We've extended it to South Sudan, having engagement in South Sudan. So we are working closely with different partners and the local government systems of South Sudan to make sure we preach peace and also talk about how war is creating more problems, by the way, for Uganda.
You earlier talked about relocation.
Yes.
But this is what I seem to have noticed, that the refugees coming from the Horn of Africa, those areas, it is easier for them to relocate. In fact, I have a friend of mine, a refugee again, who should be leaving for Canada in the next 2 days. And the refugees coming from Congo, coming from Burundi, and other places, and South Sudan, they are not relocating at a quicker pace than I have seen the Somalis, the Eritreans, and Ethiopians. So what's the trick?
When it comes to resettlement, Patrick, the different countries that are hosting the refugees or that are asking for clients, they always have categories. And when they invite and send to the UNHCR and say we need this particular category of people, sometimes they even specify. Because UNHCR has the profile of all refugees in different cases. So you'll find maybe Sweden has requested for Congolese refugees, and maybe in this they need victims of sexual violence. So in the profile, they'll only identify victims of sexual violence. And maybe if they need people with security threat, maybe from Somalia, maybe the entire Horn of Africa, particular country, so they will pick out only those particular categories. So there are always demands.
Okay, I think you've explained it better, but when we come back, I'll be asking Angelina, is it also not possible that Ugandans who want to live abroad may pretend to be refugees, relocate to Nakivale, to Uruchinga and everywhere, so that they too hold on those settlements, and before you know it, They are claiming to be Congolese so that they can go to Canada. We'll be right back. I know some who have studied and they are doctors and they are serving here. And I also know some who have different skills. So there is something we learn from the refugees as much as also learn from us. And today could be them, and tomorrow it could be you who wants to take a refugee in their country. So the numbers, I don't know, I have looked at, I need to investigate further, but I've seen the population preliminary census report. It actually puts the number of refugees, did they say 780 something thousand? Less than a million. And yet what you quote is like 1.7. I don't know which one now to follow.
Patrick, maybe if was it the current census?
The one that was a preliminary report that was given today.
I don't think there are 700 because OPM government does the registration of all refugees in the country. And to my knowledge, I think even the number that we have is less. The 1.7 million is less. What we have is more. We have asylum seekers, we have the undocumented migrants. Those refugees who are not yet registered, who are struggling to seek registration in Uganda, who are also seeking for refugee status in the country. So to me, maybe they didn't reach to did they go in settlements to register? I
don't know, that's what I'm saying, need to investigate them further, but the numbers that I saw did not indicate that we have as many refugees like you're saying, even though I was reluctant to believe the figure possibly they've given us.
Possibly they did not enter into the refugee settlements because as far as I know, Uganda has more refugees than the ones that are registered by OPM.
Yes, now,
additionally,
yes,
even here in Kampala, in urban areas, most of refugees were not sensitized about the census.
Okay.
Because they have been calling me, hey, chairman, these people for census, they are here in my compound. What can I do? No, you let them work on you. I've already chased them. They have already gone. I said, okay, let us wait. Maybe they can pass again tomorrow. So people have been fearing because with UNHCR, they thought maybe when they censor you, you become maybe a Ugandan. Okay. You are going to get the Ugandan ID, and they have been now reluctant to that exercise.
Okay, but also it is very hard to also to know the numbers, considering that we have a relation with all the neighboring countries. You know, if you find the people, the artists who are in eastern Uganda, they're the same in Kenya. If you find the Aluru in West Nile, they're the same in Congo, and the Bakonjo are the same on the other side. So people come, but they just fuse into families and friends and relatives. So can you really be sure, Angelina, the number of the refugees that we have? Because others do not even, the system will not capture them.
Yeah, that actually speaks to what she said, that some are undocumented. So that actually, I also want to agree that we have more than the ones that we are seeing in the dashboard. Because for us, we base on the dashboard of UNHCR and OPM, and they keep updating this regularly. So those, they have the documentation, and that's what we believe. But they could be more. They surely should be more. They are undocumented. Like, they just come and fuse in. You come, you don't register.
I was in Germany, and we met this man who said he came to Uganda as a refugee in 1970-something. Obviously, he was a young man. Now he's a grandpa. So there's also a possibility that some of the refugees actually don't even go back at all.
Yes, they don't go back.
What causes that?
War in their country. Because when you look at Congo, honestly, up to today, there is war. Up to now, we are still receiving refugees. So you can't go back. It's only Burundians that government recently repatriated back, some of the Burundians in their country. So I think while there is no peace, so the government can't really take or maybe allow those refugees to go back to their country.
Let me see, in case I have a call on line, and then I think I have a call. Hello? Hello? Okay. You can call in. Some of them do not want to
go back because there is still war. Where there is peace, there is the voluntary repatriation.
Okay. I have a call online. Hello?
Good evening, Patrick.
Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
We are talking to Ekode.
Okay.
Olivia and Clear from Beta. I have 1, 2, 3 concerns. One is about the land eviction which are happening in our country. How safe are the refugees? 2, about the sanctions which are happening to our country. Are they not affected? And finally, when the refugees from Afghanistan reach the country, I personally thought I would get a friend from there. But how the government was so strict. So it's like we are welcoming country, but we are so obstructed from getting friendship from those refugees. How are we going to go to cooperate? We'll get those kids from those refugees if we are strictly not allowed to operate with them. Thanks for that, sir.
What of Uganda are you from? Okay, but I can imagine. Also get problems finding a friend from within a Ugandan community. I don't know what you meant, but how safe, do you feel safe in Uganda, Olivia?
Yeah, let me say I feel safe despite some troubles and what happened recently by an MP at the Parliament of Uganda who tried to show that now refugees are not good people to Ugandans, and from there we saw people who have those small issues with refugees. They have been now harassing people, and we have cases already registered within the community whereby they find you and they can beat you. We take you to the hospital. We have to call the ambulance of this, and we have those cases there. But in general, we are safe.
Okay, well, it's good to know that in general you're safe. But the truth is, Uganda, I should say, is a safe country. And in my line of duty, I've had an opportunity to travel. Sometimes when you go, I will not mention countries in the region, but I will show you that you're actually not from here. And from there, when you go there. In Uganda, I have a feeling perhaps maybe people will not even think about it unless maybe you have committed a crime. But of course, human nature, there is that person who will pick on you for some reason because that's their character. Yeah. So somebody was saying, Michael, that integration is not very well, that sometimes we want to be very friendly to them. They don't want. I don't know how you're going to handle that. But Charity?
The law doesn't restrict Ugandans from marrying the refugees. It doesn't restrict. They just have
the personal. Yes, you have the personal understanding.
You said a friend of yours is going to get married to Uganda.
No, they're already married to Uganda.
So they're already married.
Yeah.
So, and those ones, it's easier. The kids get citizenship easily compared to the others. I think maybe it depends. Does he have the space to meet this particular person?
That could be another issue.
Yes. So Afghan refugees, they might be in a designated place. So he may not have access to the Afghan refugees.
Okay, that's funny. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you less than a minute to do your concluding remark, then Charity, and conclude with Olivia. Okay, Olivia, could you go first? Your concluding remark.
Oh, thank you very much, Patrick. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. We have concluded the World Refugee Day celebration today. And we really appreciate the government of Uganda. We recognize that the government of Uganda, they have those good policies for refugees. The policies, they are really favoring us. And it is good for us. And since being a refugee is not a choice, but just an option. And I want our fellow Ugandans, as Africans, as Bantus, to understand that refugees, they are normal people like them, and together we can prosper for the sake of our African unity, African prosperity. So that is all that I can say. I appreciate all the partners, Refugee Law Project, DRS. We do really collaborate together for the sake of our people. And also UNHCR. Nalingi bino mingi. Dieu vous bénisse. Bonsoir au peuple ougandais et à toute ma population aussi.
Angelina, merci beaucoup. You're parting short, Angelina.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, for having us on the show. Also, thanks to our dear listeners for tuning in. We do appreciate you tuning in as we talk about solidarity for refugees. I do believe that we all have a role to play in extending this cause as we will come and show solidarity for our dear brothers and sisters. No one wakes up one morning and decides to leave the comfort of their home.
Thank you.
So we're here. Thank you so much to JRS for the opportunity to...
Our time is out, and Charity, very briefly, 10 seconds.
Yes, solidarity with refugees shines a light to different issues, the issues of their rights, the issues of addressing their needs, the issues of responding to what they need as refugees. And importantly to note is that we continue to call upon our donors, if they are listening in today, to continue providing funding support to the humanitarian agencies in the country that are supporting refugees.
Thank you, Charity. Thank you, Angelina. Olivia Mbotenangai. Thank you. Good night and God bless Uganda.
Thank you too,
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you, Patrick.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to